Perfect. So I am a creative strategist here at Tenuity, and if I can figure out where the camera is, there we go. And I have been working here about 4.5 years and really love it. Done a ton of different roles, been on the channel teams, so really worked directly in the social platforms, used to be in the email marketing space, and now I work as a creative strategist, which I really love. Love to see all the creative strategists in the chat today. So thanks for joining. But why are we all here? Really want to talk about the science behind some of the winning TikTok ad formats that I've not only tried, but I've seen tried and that I think are really effective, and how you can leverage that for brands, not just in the D2C space. So not just your typical, retail, beauty, fashion, but honestly, even your home services, your insurance brands, things like that. So I think TikTok is a great platform. Anyone can leverage it. I know there's a lot going on in the news with TikTok right now, and it's a little uncertain, but I do firmly feel that it has kind of changed the way that we view video ad creative from here on out. So we're going to chat about that today. And just a little bit about Tenuity. So we are a digital forward brand. We are the largest independent full funnel performance marketing agency in the US. And we do have patented tech called BlissPoint by Tenuity, which is a really cool way to measure, all of the different channels that your brand could be using. But we have some really amazing clients. So we do work on brands like Away, Honest, Appfolio, Elf, Etsy, Poppy, which has been a big, really fun one, and a ton more. So super excited to jump in today and just chat about TikTok. So to start us off, I kind of found this study, definitely not like the most scientifically accurate, but for purposes of this, it works. Business Insider actually did kind of a short experiment with 2 employees in a 3-hour time frame. They measured how many ads or ad-related content they received. And in over 1,000 videos, about 31% was some sort of advertisement. So that being said, you can kind of assume within 1 hour of TikTok scrolling, someone could potentially be showed 378 ads on average. So with that, how are you going to stop the scroll? That's a lot of ads. Obviously, you're going to have to cut through the clutter. So we're going to chat through how you can cut through the clutter today and how you can stop the scroll. One thing I love to do, and I do this a lot actually for my clients, is look at the history of the brand. So for the brand today, we're going to talk about advertising and targeted advertising and really how it's changed, just to kind of give us all a little mini history lesson, take us to school today. So in about 1922, we know radio was kind of the first targeted advertising. And really back then, they would just kind of talk about that unique selling proposition, which I'm sure we all learned in school. And then around 1940s, we got into TV, and really it was just like a straight graphic with a little bit of music or some VO. And then we get into kind of the digital age, where in the 1990s, we had our first online ad, which I just learned that it was this one. I think it's from AT&T. Really simple, and I thought this was super fun. 44% of people clicked on this banner ads. They had a 44% click-through rate, compared to today, where you get 0.02 or 2% on a good day. That's really incredible. So what I wanted to show this for is just to show we're up against a lot more nowadays. Your creative is way more important than it ever has been. And as we got into kind of even more the social age of digital advertising, you can see like we've come a long way. So with Facebook, we used to have these kind of like basic banner ad creatives. With Instagram, we moved into like a little bit more sophistication, where we have like the sponsored posts, the video ads, and a little bit more complex targeting. And then for those of us Gen Z and millennials, we probably remember the influencer era of the 2010s, where we really kind of started to get into like influencer advertising, kind of those hauls, get ready with me's, what's in my bag, all of that good stuff. And this really ushered in the initial age of smartphone creation being more accessible to everyone. And then as we got into the era that I would say we're in now, and quickly evolving into other mini eras, would be the TikTok era. So this is really where we've popularized brief, engaging video content. And really people are having to adjust their way of shooting to this vertical short form audio focused advertising. So we're going to chat through how to win in the age of TikTok advertising today, and definitely pop your questions in the chat if you have them. There's a Q&A section, as Travis mentioned. We'll be happy to answer them at the end. So some things that I thought would be kind of interesting to look at here, just so everyone knows, half of Gen Z is using social media to discover new products to purchase. So they are more than 6 times more likely to purchase on TikTok than Gen X and baby boomers. So if you are a brand who is either catering to Gen Z now, catering to millennials, or will need Gen Z as your customers in the future, which I would argue is all of us, because they are going to be kind of the new homeowners and the new adults, then TikTok is for you. It's not just for the young kids now, it's really for everyone. So definitely is important to learn. Also, really important to know, when polled, half of Gen Z, or most of Gen Z adults, noted that the biggest factors of why they don't like an ad really is all creative based. So when they're distracting, when they're not relevant, when they're unrelatable, those are big turnoffs for Gen Z. So no surprise there, but definitely important to make sure your ads are entertaining and engaging. And then I'm calling this Meta versus TikTok. WTF, watch the format. So I think a lot of us probably have experienced video advertising on Meta, Instagram, and Facebook. It's a very different platform than TikTok, in my opinion. I do think with TikTok coming kind of into more mainstream, Meta video is actually changing alongside that. So I think the way that we've always approached Meta, or at least I've seen it approached, is really designed for sound off. So we know most people for Meta do have their sound off while scrolling, the exception being Reels. So really text overlays were kind of the norm. We would tell our story as much as we could with on-asset text. And you still need to plan for sound off on Meta today. That is still the majority of users. But obviously with Reels placements, we are kind of shifting this to be a more even split. So it is increasingly more important to pay attention to the sounds that you choose in the VO for Meta, while keeping those captions on. And then for TikTok, kind of how it should be and how you should think about it a little bit differently, TikTok is really led by the sound and the story. So while I would say sound is kind of an afterthought to a lot of people's Meta strategies, sound is pivotal for TikTok. So really what I always recommend is, if you can, you want to think like a creator. So you want to find the sound you want to use first, and then write a concept that fits your product story. So instead of, creating your video and then kind of putting in the sound at the last minute, for TikTok, I usually try to recommend that we pick our sounds first, because that is how native users of the platform are going to use it, and that's going to give you the most authentic feeling content. And one thing to notice there, I always say this to clients and to teams, you do want to be careful. I do see a lot of brands on TikTok illegally using sounds that are not commercially licensed. So just a note there, always go to the TikTok commercial music library, or make sure you're purchasing the rights for those songs and sounds. But yeah, and then looking at an overview, so this is what I'm kind of coining as the TikTok effect. So how has it really changed the way that we approach video ads outside of what we just chatted about? Like I mentioned, audio-centric advertising. Audio is more important than ever. Also, authentic voices. We've kind of seen a shift since Instagram and YouTube to more authentic voices, but that's even more crucial with TikTok, as people are kind of wanting to stop the BS. They want really, authentic, real people telling them about these products. And then experimentation, which really speaks to motion, which we use as well today. But experimentation is a huge part of TikTok advertising. The algorithm will tell you very fast if it likes something or doesn't like something, including in your paid ads. So don't be afraid to experiment. It's definitely key to finding out what, area of the FYP you fit into. Also, shorter content cycles. I think, standard, at least for us around here, we typically refresh meta ads like every month, 3 to 4 weeks. For TikTok, we try to refresh them more like every 2 to 3 weeks at a minimum, just because those content cycles are so short. So you're wanting to refresh them as much as possible. And then we'll chat about this as well, but front loaded storylines. So, gone are the days of TV ads where you couldn't skip and you had to kind of watch the full 30 seconds. With the era of really scrolling and being able to skip advertising, you need to front load your storylines. You have to have that really amazing hook that keeps them interested and keeps them wanting to watch the rest of the video. As I mentioned, the best TikTok ads definitely lean into sound first. If you guys need support, kind of, going to your creative directors or your bosses and really, touting the fact that the sound is so key. 93% of TikTok users have sound on. So it is definitely everything on this platform. You want to really prioritize sound, whether it's purchasing sound or using the commercial library. And then when you do use UGC, so I mentioned that authenticity is key. When you do use UGC, I would say the best thing that I always recommend is trying to promote your real customers. So I see this a lot where people will pay influencers, and influencers are great. We use influencers here. We have an amazing influencer team. But we usually like to find people who do have a natural affinity for our brand. That way, when they speak about the brand, they're going to come off really authentic and passionate about your product. Also, I don't know if you guys have seen, but TikTok users really love to roast influencers who say one thing and do another. So, transparency is key, especially when you're using large influencers. You want to make sure they're authentically a fan of your brand and they can really speak to it in a way that feels genuine. Also, no name small creators are actually often just as effective in most industries. You don't need a giant budget to hire content creators to make video content for you. Really, any real person that feels authentic and relatable can be an influencer for your brand. So don't feel like you need to have thousands or millions of dollars to hire content creators. You definitely can do it for a cheap budget. And then when you do brief influencers and creators, a brief is really key. This is where I would say creative strategists, you guys can really come in and make or break an influencer campaign. I partner really closely with my influencer teams. I absolutely love working with them, and it's really been a pleasure to kind of help shape the way we brief our influencers. So we're getting what we need out of the content, but also not giving them like a dedicated script that they have to follow. So the biggest thing when you brief influencers, I always say, don't give them a billion copy points or a script. Let them make the content they would make naturally for their channel. But you do want to kind of guide them with the general overarching one sentence message you want to get across. Really, again, your ads have to be engaging, entertaining, and add value to the viewer, or they'll keep scrolling. So the more kind of guide rails and copy points you give your influencers, the less engaging and entertaining they're going to be able to make it. And then what if you don't have the budget for an influencer or even a creator? Don't worry, that happens all the time. I think one thing that I've seen do really well that's kind of interesting is, do you have an in-person spokesperson? Maybe your CEO or your founder is really great on camera. They could just kind of work with someone with an iPhone who's good at video editing. You can use them that way. If not, can you hire one? I think like content creators are pretty affordable these days, which is great. So definitely you could look into hiring one. If you can't do all of that though, there are other options. So there's a really cool tool that I just found called Dupe. It is a free video and photography UGC hub. It's all UGC, it's all free and royalty free, so you can just download and use it. But they feel shot on iPhone and they feel really aesthetic. So they're very nice to use in TikTok videos, in TikTok carousels. We've started testing them some, and I think they're really great. And then also always keep an eye on who's talking about your brand. So one thing I'll do, it's definitely not technically in my job description, but I just like to do it anyway, is I will scroll through who has tagged our brands on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, really any of those. And if they have vertical video of them talking about the product or using the product, that's a great idea to think about maybe purchasing that from them and running it if you feel like it could make a good ad. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Sometimes you'll see that you have natural influencers who are just so jazzed to talk about your brand, and that's a great time to really kind of promote them there as well. And then if you really don't have a video editor or you don't have the time and you just need something live, carousels are actually a really great format on TikTok. I've seen a lot of success with them. I believe they just also launched them for more conversion based campaigns. They were previously just traffic and awareness. So you can actually put them at any objective level. And they're a really easy way to play into trends in a more accessible way with some static photography. There's some fun ways you can play with them. Message me after if you're like, I've never done this and you want to chat carousels. We're not going to talk about that today, but they are a really fun way to engage in trends. Awesome. And then, like I mentioned, TikTok trend cycles do change really fast. So your creative needs to change fast too. Like I said, 2 to 3 weeks versus monthly is really ideal for TikTok. As much creative as you can feed the algorithm, the better. Usually, we say 5 to 6 videos a minimum for a campaign is best. But again, if you have more, that's amazing too. And then, as I mentioned, the story arc of a TikTok. So, how video ads used to work, we kind of would start and build to like a dramatic climax or a reveal. We would have these really emotional or engaging long form stories on unskippable channels like traditional TV. But how social video actually works nowadays, you kind of have to start high and deliver hits throughout to keep them engaged. So, honestly, I think this has changed the way we think about video across the board, not just TikTok. I work on streaming assets as well and traditional TV commercials. And we really have to change the way we think about that now as well, because even though in most cases for TV, you can't skip, for some placements like your YouTube or your OTT, you can skip. So you have to hook them in the beginning. So this is really something we apply to almost all of our video creative now, which is really a different way of thinking about things, but really you just want to hit the most interesting part of the video at the beginning and then kind of deliver quick hits throughout. And I just wanted to pull this because I thought this was a really cool feature that I do use in Motion to kind of assess whether our hook is working. So, if we want to do hook testing, for example, and we'll have a couple videos with different intros, I love to go into the video analysis and the creative insights, and it'll actually show me at what point in the video the majority of our users are dropping off, as well as at what, how long most of them stay, which I think is a really cool feature. So, I use this a lot. I think it's really helpful. This is one of our better videos for one of my clients, and you can see it actually retained people quite a bit. I will say most people jump off after a second or two. That's pretty average. So this is a really great result that we got. Okay, now while we're all here, let's explore some of the longest lasting TikTok trends. So, to start off, a fan favorite, in my opinion, Get Ready With Me has been a staple probably since YouTube days. So, it's definitely not new to TikTok. But the reason I put it in here is because I think that shows it has lasting power. So, while TikTok, I think, has kind of popularized or reinvigorated this Get Ready With Me trend, really it's here to stay. So, and I like to tell people, like, you don't have to think about Get Ready With Me as just a format for fashion, beauty, and skincare brands. Actually, this video here on the right side is State Farm Insurance. They did a Get Ready With Me video ad. So 100% you can do it no matter what kind of company or business you are. So don't think that you are not included in Get Ready With Me's, because you definitely can. The science behind why, we really think this works. One, it's multitasking. So you can use it to kind of like tell a longer story with a creator about their experience with your brand, because you're engaging two parts of our brain simultaneously. So you're really keeping your mind engaged by watching this person go through their daily routine and putting, their makeup on or putting their outfit on, while telling you a story. So you're not getting bored. You're kind of being engaged in two different ways. The second part, which was kind of interesting to me, is it's really intimate. So if you think about it, you're watching someone in a really intimate part of their routines. So you kind of start to feel a natural closeness and trust. And so the message that they're telling you is going to potentially be received a little more positively. So it's a great way to talk about things that maybe are uncomfortable or make something seem a little less salesy to people as you're using the format. Also, you can definitely use this format to kind of hook you with a twist or take a more funny approach. Not every Get Ready With Me has to be makeup or a product it's showing. This State Farm video was a great example. The guy kind of intros it and says, "Get ready with me to look like a State Farm agent." We all know the classic State Farm agent, outfit from the commercials. So it was a really fun kind of spin on the trend. And again, it gets you comfortable with what they're going to talk about. So everyone gets ready in some way or another. Everyone puts their pants on one leg at a time, as they say. So it's really something familiar. So you can kind of make them feel a little more comfortable when you talk about something that maybe isn't familiar to them. Awesome. And then the next format, also, I think, kind of back to the YouTube days, this has evolved a little bit for TikTok. But vlogs or, a day in the life, shop with me, those kind of formats, these really do go back to the OG YouTube days. I was a huge vlog watcher back in the day. Absolutely love them. I think they're so interesting. I think it just taps into our nosy side. Like we want to know what other people's lives are like, live a day in their shoes. But with these, I pulled two examples. So one here is Bose headphones. They did this really nice day in a life. It's this girl, and she kind of talks about, how the Bose headphones throughout her day in the city really help her tune out the noise and relax and get through her day in a really fun, engaging way. And then the one on the right here is Amika Hair Care. This is a format specifically for beauty and skincare that I think is a really trendy format and probably is here to stay, which is really just kind of like bringing the in-store shopping experience online in your advertising. What it does is it kind of helps cut through the need for them to actually go into the store, gives them that trial experience, and also is a great way to talk about the range of products you have. So just like real shopping, you see them add the stuff to their cart, it gives you this like nice dopamine hit, which is really great and engages our brains. Also, the POV angle is really popular with these formats. It really feels like you're walking in someone's shoes. It draws you in more than just kind of that passive viewership of other formats. One thing I also wanted to call out here, so I do usually recommend platform native text so you can follow along with the captions. So instead of maybe putting like your branded text on the asset, I do think it's best practice to just use the platform native text, the captions. Try to avoid additional text if you can. There is a format called display cards on TikTok, which we love to use here at Tenuity. And those are a great way to have your branded text elements, your promos, etc., on the creative without interfering with the UGC content itself. So definitely avoid as much text as you can. It's a very sound forward platform. If you're going to do captions, just stick to platform native. And the next one here is another personal favorite. So behind the scenes, how it's made, behind the brand, all of those good things. If you guys watched How It's Made back in like the 90s and early 2000s, I think that's kind of like a good reason to talk about why this is such an engaging format. People are just super curious. We want to know like what went into a brand or what went into a product. So this is a really great scrappy way for almost anyone to kind of give that more personal view into what your brand is doing or what went into the product that you want to talk about. Rather than kind of just like sitting down and saying, here's what's in my skincare product, or, this is what it does for you, or it's 70% more likely to X. If you kind of take the approach of going to the factory or going to kind of the test lab or something like that, and really talking about through this visual and engaging way what is in your product, how it's used, why you guys, put it in there, and all of the work that went into creating it, you kind of build this trust and transparency with your audience. You make them feel more comfortable with the product because they know how it was made. Also, value props just come naturally in this format. They don't feel forced. It's really kind of just a natural progression. And I also like to say no process is too small. This is like a Binky brand, and they did like a behind the scenes of their photo shoot, which was on a tiny piece of cardboard. It just kind of is like a fun way to show like, okay, it doesn't have to be like a big production or a trip to the factory. You can literally make content out of absolutely any part of your day as marketers. So definitely don't be afraid to pull out your iPhone and shoot the BTS. Also, again, it doesn't have to be glamorous. People are nosy. They want to see what's behind the brand and really what you guys are up to. And then for this last one here, so this one I do feel like is really a TikTok trend. This is not going anywhere. Just the nature of the platform and the editing tools that it provides. transitions. So how did you do that? Sometimes they're so magical, you kind of have to watch them twice. One thing I do think is really nice, if you're, capable of doing it, or you have a video editor that can do it, try editing in CapCut just so that it feels native. That is how creators are creating the content. So either in CapCut or in the TikTok platform, that's going to make your content feel really authentic and engaging. There's a lot of pre-made editing styles and transitions on there, which is great. Also, cool shit always beats a sales pitch, so have fun with it. This one here from Tatcha, which I absolutely love, is really cool. They're promoting their matcha cleanser. So they kind of like show you a picture of matcha, they put it on the glass, and then they tap it, and the transition has the product, which is filled with matcha, come into the glass. It's a super simple way to just get that value prop across, that this is, a really cool matcha cleanser. So have fun with it. It doesn't have to be overthought. You don't have to cram a bunch of messaging into it. Sometimes in the awareness phase of the funnel, the best creative just stops the scroll and lets them know who you are. And then Samsung. So again, just to talk about, it's not just beauty and retail, but tech can do it too. Samsung, with their more high production value video, did this really cool. We'll see if it'll play again. It's like forget what they're called. It's like a parallax, I guess, where it kind of pours the coffee and everything else is still. So you can kind of see how TikTok has even evolved to now people's high value production shoots are thinking more like this. How can we hook you with intrigue? How can we kind of visually play with our editing to make it feel a little more digitally native? Also, the product doesn't even lead on this spot, which I think is great. Again, despite some people always saying like the best practice, you got to get the product in the first 3 seconds. I would say the exception to that rule is if you're going to have fun with it and you just do a really cool hook. Sometimes it doesn't matter because they'll stay and they'll watch. So don't be afraid to kind of try something that's a little more entertaining or engaging in the first 3 seconds, and then kind of intro your product at the end. Not to quote Taylor Swift, but Taylor Swift, really loves to do those like great kind of surprise and delights, or she'll give you like little clues and hints here and there. So I think we're kind of in our own era of waiting on things and being willing to wait for the payoff. Awesome. And then I think a big thing too, just as you're thinking about your own TikTok strategy for your brand, how you can leverage TikTok, really get to know who your audience is, like know your demographics, and try to kind of follow what their FYP page would be. So study what kind of content they're consuming. I mean, this could be as simple as like going to their page and, seeing if their likes are on, public, and going through those. Like it doesn't have to be that deep, but definitely go watch what content you think they're consuming, match their native content and trends and style of editing as much as you can, because that's how you're going to really feel relatable to them and fit into the content that they like to view. And then just want to quickly touch on TikTok Shop. So I do think for e-com brands, TikTok Shop is becoming pretty big, and it's definitely something you shouldn't count out. So as kind of these social platforms continue to evolve, we're noticing that, they are kind of more search engines for people. So I do this as a Gen Z, and I know Gen Alpha definitely does it, where you're going to go into TikTok and you're going to search for a product review before you buy. What TikTok Shop has done, which I think is really cool. Now, as a consumer, it's kind of frustrating because I don't know about you, my whole feed is TikTok Shop now. But as an advertiser, it's really cool because now when you go search those reviews, you can actually shop directly on that video content. So they've really collapsed the funnel in that sense of you discovering a product and then eventually purchasing it. So that's a huge thing. Live shopping on TikTok is also massive. I personally haven't run a live shopping campaign. I'm pretty sure others at my agency have. So if you're interested, let us know. We're happy to chat with you about that. But that is also an evolving trend, as well as in-app checkout. So again, just having a way to check out directly in these social platforms. And then I always say be willing to fail fast. Sometimes the best way to know what piece of content is going to do well is actually just taking the leap of faith. You can turn off a piece of creative so fast if you see it doesn't do well. So I always say don't be afraid to test, to iterate, and to fail, because some of the failures will really lead you closer to those wins. And if you're not enabling your team to act fast, you can't match the speed of content. So the ultimate thing here is really hire people who you trust to steward your brand, and then trust them. Trust them to do it. The less roadblocks you have, the more creative they can be, and the more successful your creative will be too. Sometimes it's okay to just try something, it flops, and to try it again. It's not like a TV spot where it's millions of dollars. You set it live, you have a fixed buy, and then it flops. You can really just pivot super quickly, and the content can be made for pretty cheap. So don't be afraid to test. It's really a great time to test creative on TikTok. And then here at Tenuity, we do partner with tools like Motion, which I really am a huge fan of, just to keep an eye on the creative right after it launches. So I'll go in and I'll pull graphs like these. I blurred out my client's content just so you guys don't see anything proprietary here, but it is a great way to just kind of compare quickly a couple assets that maybe ran the same day to see, like, okay, how quickly is this ad stopping the scroll compared to others? How many people are engaging with it? How many people are purchasing? There's so many different filters you can add to it. I also use it for home services clients. So we'll look at like cost per lead, or whether people, went to a certain landing page and actually converted, etc. So it is a really great way to see how your ads are doing. I also love to pull things like fatigue reports. So I'll go in here and I'll see, like, okay, how has the thumb stopped evolved over the last couple weeks? Does it need to be paused down? Is it okay? Should I refresh it? Kind of that sort of thing. And that's the end of my formal presentation. But again, the TLDR here, make TikToks, don't make ads. I tell my team that all the time. It's definitely something you want to kind of keep in the back of your mind. It's a great slogan for TikTok. It stuck with me, and it's also a great strategy as well. But with that being said, I will bring Travis back and we can take Q&A.
Wow, amazing. The chat was blowing up. This was so much fun. Just like a wealth of knowledge and information here. So thank you, Meredith, for sharing all of that with you. I feel like people were just screenshotting your slides because it was just like, this is so helpful. And I know people love, myself included, seeing real examples. So that is always helpful. I'm going to pull up my first question for you, Meredith, coming in from Daniel, because I am biased in which questions I'm selecting because I want to know the answers too. And I feel like you're a great person to ask this one. So this one is, oh, where'd it go? I'll just ask it if I can't find it. I might have bumped. There we go. Here we go. What TikTok formats work well for an older demographic?
Ooh, that's a good question. So honestly, it really depends on your brand. I don't know what industry the person asking the question was in, but this is one area where I will say Motion has actually, not to give you the sales pitch, promise guys, I don't get commission. No, just to tell you, like, I do love, there's a tool in Motion that I do use for that, where you can kind of go in and you can click and you can actually see for certain videos what age interacted with the video or where they dropped off. So I love to use that feature just to see, like, if we're trying to target, let's say, like an older demo, like a retirees or someone who no longer has kids at home, I'll go in and I'll look at that and see how they're specifically engaging with creative and then tailor messaging to that. As far as, I think was the question, where do you find creative that works for that? Can you repeat it?
What TikTok formats work well for an older demographic?
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, so I think there's a misconception a lot of times that the older demographic is not on TikTok. That is simply not true. TikTok has billions of users now. There are older, people on it. Again, I would just say, if you're in that demo, one, think about what's on your FYP. Make content that feels more similar to that. That goes back to the piece of, like, it's going to be different for every brand, but I would say it's not that much different than the majority of what trends on TikTok. Now, do I think you should go do, like, crazy dance trend videos? Probably not. Not to say that older people don't also love those, but really my best advice is just to kind of try and tailor your own FYP to what you think your audience is watching, and then observe the type of videos that you see naturally.
I love that. Train your own algorithm.
Yes, my
Retrain it to
algorithm is
be.
a mess, you guys. You can create a burner account, like, yeah,
That's actually a really
because
good idea.
yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking I saw an ad from AS Beauty, which is a Motion customer, and it was a UGC ad, a Get Ready with Me, but it was
Mhm.
like the creator or influencer that they used was definitely of the age group that this specific makeup
Mhm.
line was designated for. And I thought, and her whole meant like her whole vibe was very like straight to the point, no
Mhm.
fluffiness, no BS. She kind of had like that New York attitude. And I just felt like that fit really well for like no BS, just give it to me straight, you know, I don't need cutesy language. Does
Mhm.
this stuff work? Is it quick? You know, and so
Yeah.
that popped into my head as you were describing that.
Yeah, I think too, like, everyone wants to be entertained. It doesn't really matter what age you are, so, again, at the end of the day, like, if you can't sit through your own video for an ad and watch the whole thing, you cannot expect your audience to do that. So, just think about it like that. Like, is this content that anyone is gonna find enjoyable? That's kind of an age agnostic approach that I would definitely recommend.
I like that age agnostic approach. Okay, this next question might be an audio agnostic approach. I'll put it up on
Okay.
the screen here. So, Samantha asked, when it comes to ads on TikTok, do you find creating your own audio using commercial free or trending sounds to be more successful, or does it not really matter?
Yeah, I mean, I am a little biased in saying that I do think that using trending audio when you can, again, there's a lot of illegal use of trending sounds going on right now. Just I see it daily. I do not know how they're not getting in trouble for it, but yeah, I would say like the commercial library on TikTok does have some trending sounds. They're royalty free. The caveat is I don't think you can use those on Meta, so, like, you can't download that creative and then run it on Meta as well, so you'll have to change the sound. But I will say using a trending sound is always a good move. It's better to use it if you can be quick and use it while it is actually trending. However, again, because it's so limited on the commercial library, even if it's not still trending, it's usually gonna do better for you than, like, stock music. I've seen both, and usually the trending audio does do better.
I like that. I also know that in some previous talks, there's like tools that are now, I think a lawsuit opened up like
Yeah.
yesterday with Suno, the
Oh,
AI
no.
music generator. Yeah, I think there's a huge lawsuit that just was filed against them. So I guess use it while you can
Yeah.
if you want to test
I know,
that.
I was excited to test that tool, but I guess we'll wait. We'll wait a little bit for sure.
Yeah. Cool. So let's go to our next question. I'm just keeping an eye on time. We probably have time for maybe like two, maybe three more questions.
Okay.
Um, Ooh, I feel like you'll like this one. What are some of the best ad formats for the fashion industry, as well as its
Ooh.
placing in the marketing funnel?
Yeah. So ad formats for fashion, I would say again, you can just scroll for fashion TikToks. That's a great way to look at what's trending, what's doing best. Actually, I didn't speak to this either, but TikTok rolled out like a new AI assistant for the creative exchange, which it's hit or miss. So I didn't really put it in here because I wouldn't say it's like the best way to use it, but you can search. You can say like give me like the top fashion ads and it'll give you what it thinks through the algorithm and through how long it's been running are the best. So you can get inspo there. For formats that I've used and I've really liked, definitely like try-ons. So like try-on hauls, whether you send like an influencer a bunch of your pieces from your collection that season, or you have them go in store if you have a physical location and have them try on that kind of in-store vlog format I talked about is another great one there. Those always do well. I will say what I've noticed with fashion brands is the more pieces you can show in your ad, so not just focusing on, say, like one outfit or one piece, the more broad range you're gonna have and the better the ad typically is gonna do. So I usually recommend, don't just have them try on like one outfit, maybe have them try on a couple pieces or style it a couple different ways. Try ons are definitely like a key format, though. I would say that's a good one. Also, like dressing up for an event. So, like, get ready with me's are definitely good. Like, get ready with me to go to a friend's wedding. What that does is it kind of cements in their mind hey, I have a wedding coming up and they have great pieces for that. So it's a really great way to just kind of introduce different occasion wear you have. But there's so many good formats. Transitions, again, are great for fashion. That behind the scenes format we talked about is great. You can, take a behind the scenes of your shoot or behind the scenes of, or an unboxing video. Those are always great as well.
I like that. Those are like 5 or 6 formats you mentioned there. So, Piotr, I hope that helps you.
Yeah.
Let's dive into our next question. Um, ooh, let's see this one. Okay. So, can you describe how you approach making ad content for intangible products and services, i.e.,
Yes.
something that's not physical, a physical product or easy to show?
Melanie, I love this question. Believe it or not, I would say 60% of what I work on are intangible products. So while it's super like fun and a little bit easier to sell like a suitcase or skincare, or a fashion brand, I think it's really fun to sell intangible products because you do have to get more creative with it. For us, what we'll do a lot of times, that is where a creator is going to be super beneficial because you can kind of have them talk about their experience with the product. So, like, again, say it's an insurance brand, you can really have them talk about a time where they needed that insurance and it came through, using another engaging ad format to just kind of triple engage them. And then you can also do things like, again, carousels have been really great. So, for example, I work on some home services brands. We've done like a carousel that was, choose which aesthetic you are, and it was related to a home because, it's a home services brand. That did really well for us for a long time. And that was just some static stock imagery that we put some, native text over and some sound, and people could scroll through and pick their aesthetic. And then, of course, at the end, we're like, your aesthetic goes great with our product. And, that did really well for us. So, yeah, you can use stock for sure to do carousels. That's again where I would say dupe is maybe a good option to look into if you want to kind of do like some super simple copy over like some light video with like a trending sound. Yeah, those are some good formats. I would say sometimes like ride alongs are really great. So if it's an intangible service, so like let's say it's a service or you work for, we'll just say a lawnmower company. If you work for a company that mows lawns, go on a ride along and show like what does the service person actually do at each property. That kind of behind the scenes style does really well. So you can definitely be on TikTok with an intangible service. You just have to get a little more crafty and creative with it.
Wow, that is amazing. Those are actually really great formats that I've seen that I didn't even realize what it was. But the ride
Yeah.
along is huge. Yeah. Man, just a wealth of knowledge here. Okay, let's dive into one last question here. And I'm looking through them. Hmm. Let's go with this one. I haven't heard much talked about. Are interactive add ons better for awareness or conversions? I'm not even really familiar with what
Yeah.
interactive add ons are.
Yeah, I love this. So, an interactive add on for anyone who's not familiar, those are going to be your display cards or your countdown timers, or I believe there's a newer one where you can like actually put your products underneath, kind of like Meta does with the collection ads. I
Oh.
love interactive add ons. I actually usually use them more in conversion and traffic. You can use them in awareness. Typically, we use them in conversion or traffic because they do usually include an extra button or an extra area to click. So they're really great for that. For example, display cards, I'll usually use those for big promos. So that's a great way to like add your promo messaging to say like your top ad formats that you've kind of been running for a little bit without having to ask a creator to reshoot a video and add the promo hook in. You can just add it to the display card. Same with the countdowns. Absolutely love a countdown. Love putting that on there for promos, for new products. If you have like an event you're promoting, say you're a B2B brand and you want people to sign up, you can use, the countdown timer for that. The carousel with the products is also obviously great if you want people to shop directly from the ad. I don't believe you have to have a TikTok shop account to do it. I think you can link it directly to your site. I'm not the one that builds those though. So if you have questions about something like that, you'll have to ask one of my social gals. But yeah, there are a lot of great interactive add-ons. Definitely test them. Love to do where I'll like put the same video up with 3 interactive add-ons, and then I'll go into like say motion and I'll see based on what I named them which format did best for that objective.
Ooh, getting into the naming conventions. I
Yes,
love
naming
it.
conventions are huge.
Don't sleep on naming conventions inside the motion product, y'all. That
Yes.
can really help you when you are trying to do some comparative reports to see, yeah, some super great details here. I was totally unaware of those interactive ads, and yeah, great to see
Yeah.
in the chat. Shannon mentioned as well that she loves using it for coupons, and you mentioned for
Oh, yep.
promos
Mhm.
without having asking that creator to re-record it. Like, hey, can you mention that we're also running a 30% off discount
Yes.
right now? So
Yeah, the promo coupon is a good one. I didn't mention that, but yeah, that's a great one.
that's amazing. All right, y'all. Well, I want to say thank you so much to everybody for joining us today. If you want to connect with Meredith, you can find her on LinkedIn, Meredith
Yes.
Unger. We'll make sure that we put her LinkedIn in the chat. And yeah, follow her and Tenuity. You can tell when you're attending a webinar and somebody isn't just talking the talk, they've walked the walk. And that's you, Meredith. You have so many examples, so many formats to test that you're like, yep, this works. Give this a shot. And I'm just super impressed. So, Meredith, keep on educating the community and keep pushing us farther because we have so much to learn from you.
Well, thank you for having me, Travis. It was truly a pleasure. Appreciate everyone coming and supporting, especially some of my past colleagues. So nice to see you guys on here. And everyone watching this in the future, thanks for listening. And yeah, use Motion. It's a great platform. Can't say enough good things about it.
Thanks, Meredith. Thanks for the plug. And for anyone that was here at the very beginning, we did try to say how many people are going to ask if there was a recording. I only saw it like 4 times.
All
So I
right, we
was
did our job.
did our job. I think, yes, the recording is going to be available. I'm the guy that uploads the recording. So don't you worry about it. All right, Meredith, we're going to sign off. Thank you, everybody, so much for showing up. We appreciate you, and we'll see you on our next event. It's time to ship more winning creative with Motion's creative analytics platform that helps you scale winners into unicorns and helps you figure out where your ads might need just a little more help. Join over 2,100 teams shipping winning ads with Motion like Vuori, True Classic, HexClad, and more. Get a free VIP tour today, and you can see how Motion can help your creative strategists and your media buyers speak the same language.